It is indeed a pleasure to have this privilege to play here for you. And we intend to give you a very fine program, so just settle back, relax, and enjoy the moment.
Mic check. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Looks like I got 3 viewers. 3 viewers on Twitch, if you're there. Good morning, Nicole. Good morning, Meg. If you're there, let me know you're there. Let me know you can hear me. Can you hear me? Just in case. What's up? Hopefully everyone can hear me. My mic looks good on this end. Hey, I'm happy to be back. Looks like I'm wearing, yay. Good morning, Nicole. Looks like I'm wearing a mock neck, but yeah. Oh, thank you, Denise. Likewise, good to see you. So I'm in Facebook jail. So unfortunately, I can't go live on Facebook for, I guess, just now under 30 days because I reposted content that featured Corey and his Proud Boy affiliation. So to my Facebook peeps that might be watching this later or who might be new to Twitch and trying to navigate it, welcome. Thank you for giving me a mic check, Nicole. I appreciate you. I'm back from quite the hiatus, y'all. I am happy to be back. This is how I know Charleston is gonna be my home, my forever home, is because I could not wait to get back. Not just the live stream, but just to be back in general, to be in my own home. I was on the road for about, I guess, 8 days, and I had a glorious time. And we're gonna talk about some of that glorious time. In a second. I'm gonna get some things queued up, but I wanted to do this, and hopefully, upon returning back, I'm hoping to establish routines where folks can reliably expect content, and not just Twitch form, but across other platforms, including resuming the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, etc. And so hopefully that'll come because it's important. It's important to you all who've all supported me. Didn't get any apple cider donuts, but I definitely got my fill of Northeast frills, Nicole. Thank you. Hey, D Bartlett, what's up? So yeah, I wanted to start off by saying this. I left. And on Twitch, during the live streams, I felt like I was somewhat vocal about my current status with the Cypress Fund. I'm no longer a program manager with the Cypress Fund. But I tweeted something after I left to go on vacation/travel. I tweeted something, and I did not expect, good morning, Whiskey Neat. I did not expect the outpouring of support that I received. And also, I did not expect a number of questions. So before we get into Black tourism, Black travel, and all that, I wanted to take a moment and not get too deep into it, to explain what happened between myself and Cypress. I can and won't get too deep into it because I care about people who are still affiliated with or working at Cypress. And I also care not to go too deep because I don't want this to come off as merely just personal grievance, but I want to acknowledge that personal grievance is valid, period, if you have one. So I'd like to tell you that I was on July 26th. I got prepared for work on a Monday. It was a Monday, and I logged on to a call that was told to me was a routine performance call. Upon joining the Zoom call, I quickly saw that this was not a typical performance call because one of the leaders with Neo Philanthropy, which is the fiscal sponsor of Cypress Fund, joined the call almost immediately. And my current, my boss at that time, I'm not going to mention their name, because the Beetlejuice effect, I don't want to mention that person's name and have them pop up in my life. But also, again, I don't want to this to come off as personal grievance, but it is what it is. So, hey, good morning, Joni, C. James. So I logged onto the call on July 26th. Let me stay focused. I logged onto the call, saw HR pop up, saw my boss pop up, and immediately started getting those like fluttery butterflies and like this lump in my throat. I knew it wasn't a good sign. I was told that effective immediately that my job no longer exists at Cypress. This came completely without warning. Just under, I would say 7 to 10 days prior, I was told that I was going to receive a significant pay increase, as were my peers. I was in the middle of a giving project and we were about to end the giving project. So I had not concluded my work with the giving project. So many things were in motion. I received no indication that I was going to be let go. And throughout the call, because my supervisor at that time had always demonstrated an inability to tell the truth consistently. Throughout the call, they made sure to tell me that it wasn't performance while I was let go from Cypress abruptly. It wasn't performance-based, which is, right, whatever. Water's wet too. I knew it wasn't performance-based. I show up, I do my job. I had no insecurities about my performance. And that's not ego, that's just, me stating a fact. But I was told that, your project's over, so we're going to end it. And when I continued to ask, I'm like, wait, my project's not over. The giving project isn't over. They finally just arrived at the conclusion and said, we're at will employment state, so we're going to let you go. This came after I definitely had some issues with my supervisor's leadership, her inability to tell the truth, her countless lies that I've recorded and screen grabbed. And I reached out to HR. Now, those who know HR culture, that HR is not for you. If you are a laborer, HR is to protect the company. That's the function of HR, I'm sad to say. But, HR was my only means of reporting some of this hostile work environment that I was subjected to. And so 1 + 1 is 2. I called HR not once but twice during my entire tenure with Cypress Fund. I cited some pretty gnarly things that can be easily proven. And this social justice fund that works toward Black liberation and that centers Black liberation and indigenous sovereignty walked me to the door like a criminal. Again, 40 years old, never been fired. Yeah, I've been downsized because the political job ended. When one governor or secretary of state leaves office, basically, your job is political, so you leave. That's it, right? But I've never been fired before in my life. I've been working since I was 15. I started working right here in Charleston, TCBY and CC's Pizza, next to the old Piggly Wiggly on 17. I've never been fired before. And to be walked to the door and not given an opportunity to say goodbye to my colleagues, to not have access to any of my files, to not have access to any of the work that I created, to lose healthcare at the end of the week, to lose so much, and to be presented with one of the most restrictive NDAs at the end, just all felt very icky to me. And it showed me that the Cypress Fund is not what I thought it was. And throughout my 14 months with the Cypress Fund, I was very vocal about the leadership issues. And I know that that's why I was terminated, is because I questioned things too much. The person and the woman that y'all see, the one that pushes city council, the one that pushes their friends, the one that pushes their friends' employers, the woman that pushes, I just push. I push everyone in my life. That's who I am at work. That's who I am at work. I push. I said this on Twitter too, and a lot of people took it as kind of sad, but it was just an acknowledgement of a truth that when you push, you lose. When you fight, you lose. You will lose. And I will say that this was an extraordinarily humbling experience. I did not sign the NDA. That's why I'm talking. I had a family meeting with my mom and my dad. I talked to my twin brother, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to pursue this. I'm not going to pursue this. Right. An NDA, Meg, right? You a social justice fund, right? I said, I'm not going to pursue legal action. After I tried one avenue and got really good advice and help, that law firm didn't have jurisdiction here in South Carolina. And knowing how bad the South Carolina labor laws are, I knew that it would be an uphill battle, and I'd spend more time trying to litigate this matter than I would really finding justice. And so to me, the justice is in not taking a measly 1 month salary as severance is what was offered. Justice for me is being able to talk and speak to my truth. Justice for me is being able to take back that credibility that I gave Cypress, because no one knows about Cypress if it weren't for me in South Carolina. No one knew about Cypress. Cypress is what it is, whatever it is, because in South Carolina, because of me standing next to it. And to the women and people who supported Cypress, thank you, because you supported it because of me. You supported the Giving Project probably. And that money did go to groups on the ground in both South Carolina and North Carolina. So don't feel bad about supporting Cypress while I was there, because best believe if you were supporting Cypress because of me, if you joined the Giving Project cohort because of me, best believe I made sure that that business was taken care of. Outside of the work I did, outside of the work that one of my trusted and beloved colleagues did, I can't speak to it. Because my boss, my supervisor at Cypress, the current executive director of Cypress, is not only a woman without any integrity, she's a documented liar, habitual. Maybe I don't even think she can control it, and I don't want to get too far into that, but she is a liar. And she's lying about it being a mutual separation. I signed no NDA. If you're gonna fire me, if you were so eager to fire me, lean into the fact that you let me go without any recourse. Don't go out here and telling folks that it was a mutual separation. It was not mutual. Guys, I'm in flux right now. I'm in great transition right now in a state with the most restrictive labor laws. And so as I navigate uncertainty, as I put pieces together to pay my rent this month, the upcoming September's rent and the following month's rent, as I find new employment options, please believe me, I did not plan to be here, and it wasn't mutual. Because she's a liar, though. She threw that out there and probably thought that I signed the NDA. I did not. I will not. And so Cypress Fund to me, I will say this, and I dare her to take any action on this. I dare them to take any action on this. I should have known when I was recruited by Cypress what time it was, because shortly after I joined Cypress, my supervisor, the executive director, said that she was just out here trying to scam some white folks. And so I believe that the Cypress Fund is just like some sort of, I don't know if House of Cards is the appropriate analogy or phrase or whatever, but Cypress Fund, outside the Giving Project network and outside the work of my beloved colleague who's still there, who I respect and admire, I can't speak to that work. But I know that outside the Giving Project, I couldn't tell you what the fuck Cypress does. And I'm gonna leave it there. Liar. What really got me hot was telling people that it was mutual. I did not choose to be unemployed abruptly. I did not choose to lose access to my therapist. I did not choose to lose access to my health care. I did not choose to leave without a plan in place. I was not given notice. I was not given any warning. I was told I was actually getting a quite the salary bump. And so Cypress Fund, which is fiscally sponsored by Neo Philanthropy. Y'all do your Googles, you do your research, you figure that out, you draw the line, you draw the conclusions, you figure out that whole dark money situation, and I'm gonna leave it there. But I'm very hurt. I'm deeply hurt. And yeah, so starting tomorrow, shout out to my DJ, my homie Jared. Jared and I have been working behind the scenes. I've also, when I was on vacation, the homies in Brooklyn held me down, gave me lots of inspiration. And so there'll be ways for you to support the work that I do here. I will be selling some amazing t-shirts. Hopefully I will have them to show you in person tomorrow. Shout out to Island Graphics for designing the tees. I'm excited to just unveil them. They're just basic, but I wanna have a way for folks who say, hey, can I support? Buy a t-shirt. That's the best way for you to support. If you're not on Patreon yet, hop on Patreon. That's another way to support. I'm okay. Thank you for every call, text, DM, Facebook Messenger, I am okay. I've got my mama. I've got my twin brother. I've got my nieces. I've got my family. I got y'all. Y'all are so dope. I am okay. I'm fine. It's just that uncertainty thing. I've always been a person that can land on her feet. And I do anticipate landing on my feet. And I appreciate the support I'm seeing over here on in the comment section. Thank you, Whiskey Neat. So let me just read it real quick. For those, if I upload this as a podcast, I want to read some of the comments. Right, the irony of them firing their best. I'm gonna lean into that, Nicole. Whiskey Neat, you said, I'm so sorry across the board. Shitty feeling, regardless. Yeah, it's really shitty. To be fired for the first time ever in your life and to be fired by a social justice fund that's Black woman led, shitty, right? Right. And then Justin, you went on to say later, and shitty feeling, especially when it's not performance related, right? Sorry you're dealing with this, right? At-will employment is bullshit, right? And to have that social justice fund exploit that labor loophole or that labor law, it speaks to the leadership at the Cypress Fund. Because, and like the lawyer that I did retain briefly mentioned, there were so many off-ramps before firing me. There were so many off-ramps. FMLA, just, hey, take this leave, hey, take your vacation day. It's so many things you could have done, reassigning me somewhere else, giving me something else. There's so many. I would have accepted, hey, Mika, in 30 days, we're not gonna bring back the program manager position. And as my job description was written, that's actually, thank you, Nicole. Thank you. That's actually, that would have been fine because it actually was in my job description in some way, shape, or form that there would be a discussion. I expected a discussion around, hey, we're not going to bring back project manager, because my boss fought the Giving Project from day one. My boss fought the Giving Project from day one. If you know me personally, you know the struggles I've articulated behind the scenes. She fought the work I did. She did not want me to be, probably didn't want me to be a superstar. Why the hell did you hire me? Who the hell do you think I was? And again, I didn't go looking for this job. Cypress came to me. I didn't go looking for Cypress. I was told to submit my resume. I was courted very, very, very vigorously. All right. So you knew who I was when you met me. The NDA was really telling as well. I guess they thought I was desperate. Again, did you know who I was? I'm not desperate. And if I did sign an NDA, it would be after my lawyer has settled for a significant price. Thank you so much for the subs, y'all. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. And I think, and one of my friends mentioned this, I think my executive director, and I'm going to move on, y'all, so we can get to the stuff that I really like to talk about. But I think, as one of my friends said, I think that my boss has more value, or was seen as, is not seen as a liability. Well, it's some complicating things in terms of the composition of the fund, but I think because of the fundraising, I don't know why, but I'd like to see them really try to expand their footprint in South Carolina now, because I'm gonna be very vocal about what they do. I'm gonna be extraordinarily vocal about what they do, and I would really love to see them try to sue me. Please try to sue me. Please try to send me a cease and desist. Please try. Do it. All right, let me go ahead. Thank you so much for the support. Appreciate it so much. Here from Facebook. Thank you, Michelle. I can't go live on Facebook. I appreciate it. I sent out the newsletter. I posted a link on Facebook. I can't go live. I'm in Facebook jail. All right, so let's get to it. I'm fine. Thank you. Hit me up in the DMs. Hopefully I'll be able to respond. If you have any questions about anything I just shared, thank you so much for your support. I really mean it. I can't say it enough. I really can't. And hopefully I'll show you how grateful I am, how grateful I am because of the support. All right, but let's get into it. So first of all, I want to say, I went and bought a physical. I bought 2 physical copies of the paper. I bought a New York Times, a Sunday Times, and I bought a Sunday Post and Courier. And I sat here like the vieja I am in my little armchair, and I poured over the news and the local section, the front page, the business section. And I want to say real quick before we jump into Black tourism and the article that I responded to on Twitter, I want to say shout out to, we lost a real one. We lost Lucille Whipper, 93-year-old Black woman. If you can use your library card to access the Post and Courier, this story, if you can see it, right? Former state lawmaker, right? Trailblazer. Passed away recently, and so shout out to that acknowledgement of her contributions to not just Charleston but to the state of South Carolina. Got it over there, not because it's insignificant, but I'm trying to get there. Hype train, y'all so cute. But what I wanted to talk about was the story in the business section. And if y'all know, like when I did the whole Doha sister city, they're building defense drones over on Johns Island. Y'all know I said it, maybe you said it like kind of mumbled it, or I didn't say it explicitly, but I've been sleeping on the business section. And the business section it has so, like I literally read the front page and then like other stories that pop out, crime, development, crime and development and other front page stories, flooding. I'm looking at things that I usually follow. But in the business section, was this story by Emily Williams. Emily Williams. Sorry, I'm backwards. Hold on. Right? New Gullah Geechee Alliance. And I want to say off rip, before I switch the screen to show you the article instead of holding it up like an old lady, I want to say that this conversation is not a sub, is not coming at newly appointed, new enrolled Victoria Smalls. If Victoria and I don't know each other, I'm a huge fan of Victoria. Huge fan of Victoria's work. When she was at the Penn Center, other work she's done with the National Park Service, I'm a huge fan. Every time you see Victoria on either a national special or locally, you can't help but be impressed by her breadth of knowledge and just everything. So this is not about Michelle. No, this is not about Victoria. Did I say Michelle? This is not about Victoria. I hope I didn't say Michelle to me. It's not about Victoria. Victoria Smalls is, I'm a fan. And Victoria, it seems as if, from what I'm judging from the story, it seems as if a lot of what was set in motion occurred under Heather Hodges' time with the Gullah Geechee Corridor. Victoria Smalls is the current leader of the Gullah Geechee Corridor. And let's get into it. So we're going to talk about tourism. We're going to talk about why I responded to this. I respond to almost everything that features black money, black land, black culture, Gullah Geechee land, Gullah Geechee culture, Gullah Geechee tourism. I always respond to it negatively, positively, with indifference. I respond though. And so I want to hone in on why I responded. So let me just go ahead and switch. Thank you for following. Thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. Let me switch. Yeah, thank you for the Patreon too. And y'all don't have to do crazy Patreon. Like y'all don't gotta do $100 a month. Like seriously, $5 a month is fine. $1, $3. Just letting y'all know on Patreon, right? And you can see. Let me see. No, wait. You can see the link below. You can see the link below, or at least at the bottom. All right. So what I responded to, let me go to my Twitter real quick, and hopefully everyone can hear me and see me. I think because I'm only streaming on one channel, I should be straight. All right. So let me go to my Twitter. Ooh, you see my DMs. Sorry if you see my DMs. Wait, go down. So let me see. Yep, went live. And let me click on because she responded to the story. So yesterday I read the story. I read it twice to get a grasp of it. And then I did my little Googles. I did my Googles, right? To see who this firm was and all that. So one thing I wrote was this, right? So this was quoted from the article. Now, if this came from Victoria, I don't want Victoria to think that this is me being overly critical of any work that she's led or she stepped into. I'm not being overly critical of Black people's leadership for sport, right? I know some people might think I do that. I don't, right? But I do think that there's a space between effusive praise of Black accomplishments or Black work and hating. there's like a whole bunch of spaces between effusive praise and hating, right? And it's called being critical or looking critically or reading something critically. So one of the sentiments that I grabbed from the article, I'm gonna expand it a little bit. So See it on this end. Okay. One of the lines from the article was, if one of your goals is growing tourism to directly benefit Gullah Geechee people, you can start by hiring a Black-led market research firm. I may be wrong, but I think it's Mandela, whatever, appears to have just one Black staff member. I suspect this may have unintended consequences. That's what I wrote initially, and then I screenshotted, if that's the proper tense, the article, and then here I liberated the article by creating a bit.ly link. It's in my Google folder, so you can read the PDF version of the article here, right? And then I went on, okay, and so then here I on my phone, I went to the research firm's page to see, I hit the About Us page and Staff tab, and I saw these 4 people. So I saw one, this was a white woman, Laura, Devon, what's up? Hold it down, Devon. And then 2 more, what appears to be 2 more white women. I don't know if they're white or, white passing, right? And so then I quipped, and somebody took it literally, but I quipped. I said, to be fair, I guess they're 25% Black. I then, upon reading it, right? Upon reading, I then went to, let me go back to my, I then called a friend who I thought may have been on the call. So basically, the Gullah Geechee Corridor held this virtual call. They boasted in the article, and we'll read it. 300 participants signed up to be on the call. So talking about tourism, Black tourism, Gullah Geechee tourism, and this potential alliance. And so I didn't get y'all gonna hear me complain a lot. I don't get invited to a lot of things. For some reasons are obvious, some reasons are just bogus, and I think a really false perception of what I do on my voice, and how I use my voice here. But I don't get invited to much. I did sign up for the Corridor newsletter now, so hopefully I'll get an email and I'll know, just like I do with the Avery, I'll know more about these calls that take place. But so because I wasn't on the call too, please take some of what I say, please factor that in. So I spoke to a person who was on the call. The call was facilitated outside of Victoria in the corridor. The call was facilitated by the Mandela market research firm. And from what I was told, they brought white employees to facilitate this conversation about Gullah Geechee tourism, right? I think I had a visceral reaction to the headline. No shade to Emily Williams. I don't even know if Emily gets to write her own headlines. No shade at all. But it says new Gullah Geechee Alliance to explore $34 billion tourism potential. And I immediately it chafed me, because I'm like, potential? We've been the truth. We've been bringing in the money. What do you think they come in here for? Whether Sean Brock is selling it or not, whether it's a white staff that's at the front of the house, you look at their kitchen, they're coming for the Black culture, either explicitly or indirectly, right? You come to Charleston, you have no choice. Even with the aggressive whitewashing, and the refusal to create sacred spaces, or rather to give certain historic designations to places that are sacred to Gullah Geechee culture and heritage. Whether or not they do that or not, the fact still remains is that Gullah culture is Charleston culture. The CVB and other entities have worked very hard to separate that within tourism, right? I know you're saying, well, Shamika, well, don't you want to lift up the things that make Black culture and Gullah Geechee culture special and make, absolutely. You can lift it up as what it is and not do this whole separate but equal thing that the CVB does routinely, right? And then when they do attempt to offer support to Black tourism initiatives, it's very meager, and they refuse, for some reason, they refuse to include Black women enough. They really don't, which is a whole nother conversation. But this whole potential is really weird. And I think this is actually at the core of a number of my criticisms here in Charleston, whether it's from civic leaders, whether it's from tourism leaders like Helen Hill, who's horrible at her job. My criticism is that we always are positioned as catching up. Black folk, Gullah Geechee descendants, are always positioned as being behind but catching up. Oh, full of potential. They just need whiteness to validate, right? To add credibility. There's so much potential here, and I'm like, no. We have to start positioning the culture as already is. It is what it already is. It's strong. It's robust. It survived so much. It survived so much marginalization. It survived so much whitewashing. Our culture is robust. Our culture is gritty. Our culture can withstand a lot displacement, record gentrification, record evictions, record level land seizures, right? Our culture still remains. And so when white folks come to Charleston, stop acting like they're not coming here to partake in what's already established. These hotels, and I'll take it from here and try to elevate it from the hotels and who turns down your bed, who cleans your room, to who perhaps is a parking attendant, all the way up to whose recipes are featured in some of those acclaimed restaurants. That's Black culture being sold. It's Black culture being sold with a white face. And there's where we need to start correcting some things, right? The failure to acknowledge Black culture, if that makes any sense. I hope y'all still with me. All right, it looks like everybody's cool. All right, so that's what I bristled at initially. So here, I went back and responded to my own tweet. And this is where probably people might have caught feelings, but this is we Black Gullah Geechee folks already bring in $30 billion, right? Tourists come for our food, our culture, our artists and crafts. We didn't need a study to tell us this. Black tourists exist outside of whiteness. Black tourism exists. I forgot the S. Exists. This mayonnaise covered study / alliance doesn't capture this. And so my conversation with the person that was on the call, who could tell me how it was facilitated. Also, we had this conversation about like, we already do this. We already bring in this money. We already do this work, right? Okay. Tamika, you always complain about not being invited. Then you call something mayonnaise covered. You right. I asked for it. Sometimes I do ask for it. But what I take exception to is that this Mandala firm comes in. They don't have a staff that's reflective of the very communities that they have serviced. And Mandala is accepted widely in a lot of Black tourism spaces. They have won awards from Black institutions, and I'm sure some of those awards are lobbied for, or campaigned for, right? Some of that space is I'm sure that's deliberate. And so, but what I did expect from this market, if you're going to hire and retain this market research firm that's white woman led, what I'd hope is that then you'd partner with another group, right? So let me flip real quick to this. So this company, MMGY, right? Let me go to their tab real quick. Let me see if I can find it. Let me just click on it. MMGY is not Black led, but what they did here in giving us some stats and information about Black travel, what they did here is partner with a number of Black organizations. So MMG Global, to create this stat sheet here where it boasts, and this is proof, this confirms my assertions about Gullah Geechee tourism. This is from 2019. This is pre-COVID, of course. Black U.S. leisure travelers spent $109.4 billion with a B dollars in 2019, right? So we already know this because groups like MMGY partnered with Black Traveler, Insights, Opportunities, Priorities, right? They partnered with the National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals, right? Black Travel Alliance, did I already mention that? Black Travel Alliance here, BTA, right? They partner with these other organizations that can offer up that cultural familiarity. And so that's important. The other thing I want to say about let me go ahead and open it. About the piece. Oh, wow, it's over here. Why is it over here? Okay. The other thing let me see if I got it. Nope. Oh, I know where it's at. Here we go. I don't want this one. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Here we go. All right. One thing about the piece that kind of caught my eye, here it is right here, right? one thing about the piece is that I realized too, some of these calls, y'all, and I'm gonna read your comment in a second, Nicole. Some of these calls that they're orchestrated, again, not impugning the integrity of a Victoria Smalls or anyone. Some of these calls are really to get more information than they're giving, right? So some of the calls are to see how many people are interested, right? To assess the interest level. Some of the calls are merely extractive. Now, I wasn't on this call, so I can't speak to that, but I get the impression that they just wanted to give you the broad strokes of this alliance and not necessarily give you much more information. And from what I understood from the conversation I had from a very, very trusted source, is that there was little discussion about next steps. And to Victoria's point that she makes at the end of this article, more is coming, and I expect and I look forward to that. But I think people already knew where the state of South Carolina Gullah Geechee tourism. I think people felt familiar, felt comfortable with, hey, we know we got something here. We know we got something here. We know we've got this amazing history and culture here. We know that. It's been proven time and time again. PBS, New York Times, locally, your mama, your daddy and them. We know what we got here. We know that it has tremendous value. We know that Black folk have not been benefiting, have not been reaping the economic benefits of what we know to be very valuable. And so I think from what I understood from the conversation I had, folks were looking for next steps already, but this call was like to announce the pre-announcement to the pre-announcement. Does that make sense? It sounds like that, right? So let me go ahead and read a little bit of it. Shoot, let me do this. I'm gonna read it from the screen because it's bigger. All right, a new tourism focus initiative from the Gullah Geechee Corridor, Cultural Heritage Corridor, called its first meeting last week to discuss what one report describes as enormous potential to grow the region's visitor market. The visitor market is already a behemoth. You can grow anything. Anything can sustain some sort of growth, I'm sure. But again, the premise is what I reject. Like, I know you're saying, Tamika, that's so small and insignificant. It's so tiny, but it really isn't. I think when you can constantly position Gullah Geechee culture as catching up, I think it has a detrimental effect. Like, Tamika, that's not what she's doing. I'm like, yes, it is. Right? Let me blow it up a little bit. Oh, yeah, thanks. Okay. Not gonna work. All right, here we go. All right. Enormous potential, yada, yada, yada. Okay. According to the work the group did in partnership with the Mandala Research, the potential could add up to $34 billion with the B in leisure spending. Those findings, which were compiled in a report last fall, which I don't have access to, that was compiled in a report last fall, were presented during the first ever meeting of the Gullah Geechee Tourism Alliance. Again, not only did I not get wind of this this call, there were prominent people within this sphere, within the tourism or elite, like events or something tourism adjacent or hospitality adjacent, who didn't get a heads up on this call either, which to me speaks to a breakdown in communication that I hope is improved, right? For this to be the first ever Gullah Geechee Tourism Alliance meeting. I'm gonna reach out to Quadro and see if Quadro got an invite or if he was on the call. Even though he's in Greenville, he still has roots here. I would love to know if he was on the call. The virtual session drew what organizers describe as an overwhelming response. More than 300 people registered to participate, right? Victoria Smalls, let me see. Victoria Smalls, newly named executive director for the group, kicked off the 90-minute session. What I liked about the article too is that it does lift up the work of Janie Harriet, of the South Carolina African American Heritage Commission. Marilyn Hemingway, she's the CEO of Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, which I would also say that we've got some infrastructure here. I don't know why. What I would love to have seen is probably what I don't get, and maybe Marilyn or whomever will correct me, but I didn't get that Mandala has a relationship with the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, which I believe just recently was awarded a 6-figure grant, which is amazing. Shout out to Marilyn, right? And so it would have been great to reinforce or support the work that's already being led by these Black women here. So we've got Janie Harriet of the South Carolina African American Heritage Commission, got Marilyn Hemingway, right, the CEO of the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, right, and they emphasize the importance of harnessing an economic potential of tourism along with the corridor. This is where let's say Tamika Gadsden of the Charleston Activist Network was a participant. If I was there, I would say, well, we know that the economics are already here. Why are we being left out of the conversation? Why are we not benefiting from it? To me, that's more of a worthwhile use of time and energy and resources, is to examine why Black and Gullah Geechee descendants are routinely left out of the most fruitful, the most lucrative conversations around tourism, right? Nicole, you said it seems like there's a separation. It seems like there is a separation of stuff that actually label Gullah Geechee versus the actual recognition of almost everything here is a result of that culture, right? Black culture is Charleston culture. To your point, Nicole, that's a great observation. So I feel like there should have been more time, resources, energy spent on figuring out ways to give Black folk, give Gullah Geechee descendants entree into what's already, Helen Hill is already bringing in probably now six figures. I would think like billions, tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in tourism, right? We saw that national number, right? We saw the Black travel. Let me see. We saw this stat right here, right? So we know this is the national stat, right? I would argue that, if you look at white travel to Charleston, it probably somewhere right up there with it. And definitely, I'm talking about Charleston, not the country, not white travelers leaving and traveling across the world. But I think if you look at for Charleston, I think the numbers will be tantamount to that number where, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we already know the money. We already know the money here. We're just not getting access to it, right? And again, this is not to be overly critical of Victoria's work or what she stepped into. I will say this: I am looking at. Let's get to some videos so you can stop hearing me talk. I am looking at Victoria's predecessor, Heather Hodges, because I believe that she created this relationship between Mandela. And y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody say I'm out of pocket, I'm out of my depth, correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe Heather Hodges facilitated the study, then left abruptly. I believe there was not a succession plan in place. I don't believe that Heather Hodges had a successor picked out, or I don't believe so, because Victoria just got enrolled, stepped into her role, and that was within the last 30 days. And I believe Heather left sometime in 2020. I believe, and it was abrupt. And now I believe that Heather Hodges has a relationship with this research firm. So I'm looking at that like, who was this really for? Who will this really serve and benefit? But I don't want to go too far. What I wanted to do was spend some time talking about my trip. I didn't bring y'all back nothing but these beautiful earrings and this Nina Simone t-shirt that I'm wearing. You get to watch me wear it. I didn't bring y'all anything back, but I got tons of pictures, and I uploaded a couple of pictures because when I went to New York, y'all, let me exit out of this. When I went to New York, so basically I took a trip up north and went to Jersey, Philly, New York. That's where I spent my time. I spent most of my time in Brooklyn. Good morning, D. I brought myself back. Thank you. Y'all know I love Home Alone, so I quote the movie when the neighbor's kid is in the van and he gets counted, and at the end he says, "Bring me back something French." I usually quote that point whenever I travel. Quote that part of the movie. Anyway, I came back, so I spent bulk of my time in Brooklyn with my friends and her roommates, who are now my new friends. And then what I did was I took my behind did a couple of solo trips to museums. Like I went to the Whitney. Beautiful, amazing. And I went back to the Schomburg, a place that I've been to recently. I've been to a couple times, but really, really wanted to just sit and enjoy my time at the Schomburg. And so I saw that they had this exhibition, Traveling While Black, a century of pleasure and pain and pilgrimage. Let me say it again. Traveling While Black, a century of pleasure and pain and pilgrimage. And that's exactly what the exhibition was. So that's from the Schomburg. That's from their website. This is the picture I actually took. as proof that I was there. So this is one of the like walls, the mobile walls, right? So you're saying, well, Mika, you started off with the Gullah Geechee, this new alliance with this firm that's not black, talking about black tourism, trying to break down black tourism, telling people on the calls what they already knew, confirming what they already knew about the power of the black dollar. Well, what again, what I think, and I said this on a call recently with a local museum, I really wish that we would talk about black survivorship and black customs and black mobility, right? And this is what this exhibit sparked in me and what it accomplished. It talked about not just how black folk, had motorcycle clubs or how they frequented, certain beaches up and down the Atlantic coast. It talked about the way black people had to safely navigate this because this country was and is hostile to black bodies, especially black bodies who are trying to recreate, who are trying to enjoy open public spaces, beaches, lodges, the mountains. These are places that had extraordinary restrictions, of course, during the Jim Crow era. But even now, you see the lack of black bodies, maybe on the slopes, right? Your favorite ski resort or at your favorite mountain lodge. You might not see many black people, except maybe Ty Rutherford while he's spending campaign money, but you might not see black bodies at these resorts. And that's because that relationship between black people and these spaces of recreation were always face a lot of opposition and were severed in some instances, right? Some folks maintain their love of the outdoor spaces and the beach and whatnot, but some folks, just like my family, did not have a very big connection, a close connection to places like the mountains or skiing, stuff like that. So I wanted to talk more about that. And I would hope that now you might be saying, well, Tamika, what does this story about the new Gullah Geechee Alliance, like, what you expect to do all of that? No, I don't expect that, but what I'm trying to do is plant a seed of conversation. So if the conversations do continue to take place without me, which I'm sure they will, I hope that we also center the black experience. Why? Because when you try to tally up black contributions, black financial contributions, black dollars spent, you can't look at it like you would white populations or any other population. You've got to look at the history of tourism, travel, leisure, forced pilgrimage, great migration. You got to look at all of that. You do. You have to, if you want to talk about contemporary travel, if you want to talk about contemporary Charleston and Gullah Geechee culture and heritage, you have to also talk about how black folk have learned how to travel because of Jim Crow, because of our history to this country. And this is what this exhibit did. So of course, so many people, I hope you didn't watch that horrible movie, Green Book. If you did, please throw that movie. I don't care how many Oscars it won. Throw that movie out. We're not talking about the Green Book. We're not talking about no damn Green Book of no white man teaching a black man how to eat fried chicken. We're not talking about that magical Negro bullshit. We ain't talking about that modern day zippity doo dah, Song of the South bullshit movie. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the real Green Book, right? Created by Victor Green. We're talking about that Green Book and how that Green Book was a survival guide for a lot of black people. And you say, well, Mika, what does that got to do with contemporary Charleston? Because black people still travel in large part a lot like they did back in the day. Black people, what happened? And my friend brought this up on the phone. When she gets people who want to come visit her daddy or her mama or whomever in the South will host. My mom and my daddy host my cousins, my aunties, my friends from college, they host. They stay with us. You can't get that data it's not a hotel stay, right? You staying with black folk, you staying with friends and family, right? When you go out, I might pick up the tab for the whole table because as black people, we want to host you and give you a good time. So we go out and we commune in like a family style, right? And so who we stay with, I stay in a nice hotel sometimes, Ben and Trudy's Holiday Inn ain't always the jam, right? So sometimes I got to put people up or recommend some places and all that other stuff, right? But sorry, mommy, sorry, daddy. But basically, typically my parents love to host, and when they host, they give you the use of the extra car, because a lot of black people in the South got like an extra car for church or whatever that just sits under the carport in the garage. That's what my family does. My mom and my dad take their old beat up Buicks, do what they want to do. Hey, if you want to use the 2004, you want to use the '04 Cadillac DeVille, it's right there. I'm like, yay. But black people might give you the car, or might introduce you to a neighbor or another friend that helps you with mobility. The way black people travel was largely shaped by what black folks had to endure as they traveled in these spaces. And I think that, so if you want to look at certain data points, there's certain data points you're not going to capture with traditional marketing firms' tools, and with a largely white-led marketing firm is not just going to be sensitive to how black folk have created systems around travel. My mom and my dad still to this day will probably choose a road trip over plane travel. Right? And so what does that mean? That means that we've already planned out which rest stops we're going to stop. Okay, we're going to stop in Florence, right? And then we're going to stop, in Richmond. And we're going to, like, you figure out, if you're traveling up and down the East Coast, you strategize where you're going to stop. That's largely informed by how my parents had to travel as they left the Jim Crow South, right? To go to the Jane Crow North, I don't know, but a lot of that it's muscle memory from how they had to travel. We pack lunches, right? How many black families remember this? You pack your lunches because we ain't stopping, right? Matter of fact, let me see if I can find that TikTok. Oh my gosh, because this is funny. Let me see if I can find it. It's funny. No, wait, hold on. Oh, I know what to do. It's funny, but it has a core to it that's very real. Let me go to my Instagram. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. This creator is really funny. But there's certain data points that can't be captured in traditional ways. Let me see if I can find it. It's from a ways away. Hold on 1 second. It is so funny. Hold on 1 second. She makes so much content. Here we go. I think this is it right here. Oh, I hate this. I hate when you can't listen to reels on. Let me just get her from TikTok. Golly, I hate this. Anyway, no, I'm just gonna say this. Watch this. It's so funny, right? It's so funny. It says right here, the caption is how black moms and grandmas be when y'all leaving for a trip. Let me see if I can find it. Let me not give up. Let me see where she at. Let's get TikTok. Let's go to TikTok. Y'all, I'm sorry, I should have queued this up because this actually is anecdotal, but really, really cute. Yeah. Hey, Courtney, how you doing? I love, like, she never misses. Let me see. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna transition because I can't find it, and I'll find. Anyway, it's very culturally specific, but it was funny. It's about all the things you do prepping, what Black family does prepping for a road trip, and so it's about like getting all the snacks so you don't stop too much and you don't spend too much money on junk food. It's about making sure you go to the bathroom, but a lot of those things and those customs are steeped in like ways that Black people had to travel and survive. And so when you talk about Black travel, you talk about Black tourism, Black travel and leisure, vacations. I think it's important to be culturally sensitive to that. Let me I'm gonna probably find it on my phone and then send the link to myself. Let me get to some videos that I thought really help talk about the whole traveling while Black. Let's go ahead and just do a real quick history of the Green Book. Again, throw that movie out the window. Let me play this 2-minute video as I look on TikTok for the link and send it to myself. Let me do that, and yeah, let's play this. And then we're gonna get to some local efforts that have already been attempted in South Carolina and North Carolina around Black travel, conversations around Black travel. And for what I want my viewers or my followers and here in Charleston to do is to look at how some of these other conversations, I'm not finding perfect spaces. There are no perfect spaces. There are no perfect states who do anything perfect, but there are certain areas and regions who get it, who got the assignment and know what time it is, right? And so there are some conversations happening in our neighboring states that I felt were so important and so rich, and talking about how Black people navigate travel, both in the past and in contemporary times. All right. Estrella Fuega, you says there's another controversy surrounding the Green Book. I'm sure there is, about the movie or that Green Book itself. You can drop it in the chat, whatever you're talking about.
So this brings,
real quick. So this, if y'all get a chance, go to cspan.com, and just put in all the information you see here in the search engine. It's the Green Book and African American tourism. This was, I think, 2019, October 2019. And each panelist brought something really important to this conversation, but and I didn't even know this existed. I watched the whole hour and some change long panel discussion. I watched that yesterday or this morning, and what I thought was so on point, or I took as an indicator I'm on the right track, is that so they're studying the Green Book and African American tourism, and one panelist, especially the one in the middle that you see there kind of cropped with the short haircut, she specifically talked about, equated Black travel with social justice, and I think that's important to underscore as we build out these travel and tourism initiatives from the Gullah Geechee perspective. There's a social justice element there that you cannot ignore. And I didn't really get a sense that was going to be a focus or a feature of this quote unquote new Gullah Geechee alliance. I didn't get that. Again, it feels like the piece was more about, hey, Black people have to prove, there's one part of this story from the Post and Courier. It says that justifying budgets is often a big challenge. This is what Laura from Mandela said. Justifying budgets is often a big challenge, she said, especially when hard numbers aren't available to show, quote, people are interested in what you have to sell. Well, now we have the data. Sweetie, honey pop, we've been had the data. And I assure you, any data that you got ain't precise, lacks precision. I can smell it. I got a sixth sense around bullshit. All right, a lip service, and you've already had the data. Why did you break down a current disparity study? Did you use the Avery's research? Did you like this? And as a person who worked on a disparity study a long time ago for the state of New Jersey, just that data is enormous. And what you can do within data of studies that have already existed, you can take that data, start there, and then start to pull apart and get very specific and pinpoint certain areas within the data, which I didn't get the impression that was there either. Oh yeah, I watched Lovecraft Country. They talk about the Greek. That's exact girl, Nicole, Cousin Nicole, always coming through. Let me play this part, y'all. Let me stop talking so much. Let me play this.
Me finally to probably what you guys all want to hear about is the Green Book. Because it was this sort of racism that necessitated the Green Book. The introduction to one of the editions read, quote, "There will be a day sometime in the near future when this guide will not have to be published. That is when we as a race will have equal opportunities and privileges in the United States. It will be a great day for us to suspend this publication, for then we can go wherever we please and without embarrassment. But until that day comes, we shall continue to publish this information for your convenience each year," end quote. The Green Book, actually titled the Negro Motorist Green Book, the Negro's Traveler's Green Book, and the Traveler's Green Book, was published from 1836 to 1967. It was started by a New York postal worker named Victor Hugo Green, who you see pictured, here. The travel guide targeted a growing Black middle class and featured the various establishments Black automobile travelers might have need of. The automobile is an important symbol of freedom, but traveling by car took on an extra significance for African Americans. George Schuyler, who's an African American author, said, quote, "All Negroes who can do so purchase an automobile as soon as possible in order to be free of the discomfort, discrimination, segregation, and insult," end quote. While automobile travel guaranteed that African Americans would not experience racism and discrimination within the mode of transportation itself, unlike traveling, quote, by train or bus, this was not guaranteed once they exited the vehicle, so the Green Book provided important guidance. Initially, the book only contained listings for New York. The businesses features were not necessarily Black owned. They were also white businesses that accepted Black patronage.
Okay. Cool. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. All right. So that's just a little history on that, right? And as you got a sense of going back to my trip, right? So when I go to the Schomburg, we learn about why it was necessary to have a Green Book, right? Why Black people relied upon this. But not only that, with the exhibit, I got too much content. So, okay, so this is some of my other pictures from so the Schomburg, y'all, which is located in Harlem, is part of the New York Public Library system. So you know I'm all about debt. The Schomburg seriously has, I believe, the most comprehensive collection of green books in the country, if not the world, right? And so what I loved about this exhibition was not only did it talk about why it was necessary to have a green book in the different, like I was able to look, they had like open green books that you could look at. What did I just do? Oh yeah. That you could look at. You saw what was listed within the green books, and you're like, wow, they really had to include, like, okay, white owned versus Black owned, and tell you what the building might have looked like, and maybe some of the earlier green books, and tell you who to talk to when you got there. And also, y'all know that South Carolina, we had tons of green book locations, right? And those things should be lifted up as well, which we do. I will say this, South Carolina, we're gonna get to that real quick. We're gonna get to it. But so this is the most comprehensive, I believe, collection of green books in the world. I took pictures of it a lot. I took a lot of pictures of it. I was really just like taken aback. Like, they were everywhere. And to me, it was just like, these were amazing guides. They were well produced, of course. They were just amazing. And then they had video of like, this is Malcolm X when he traveled. Oh, so that's what they had too. They had all these beautiful travel posters when certain airlines, after Jim Crow, whenever when white folk discovered, oh shoot, we've been letting these people not come, and we've been preventing these people from patronizing our establishments. They got money now. They not slaves no more. They got money. And I'm being a little facetious, but not really. And so when they realized that Black people had spending power, airlines like Pan Am and those would market directly to the Black consumer. So whether it was Ebony Magazine or certain travel organizations, they started marketing to Black people. And so throughout the exhibition, you saw all these instances of Black people enjoying travel. Martin Luther King enjoying a vacation, Malcolm X going to Africa, world renowned Black photographers going to Egypt and whatnot. You just saw all this, you saw these Black bodies recreating, not just here nationally, but internationally. And it was so important to see Black people having fun, right? Black people enjoying spaces that have largely been hostile to us. All right, so I just uploaded it, y'all, while you're watching a 2-minute video. I think this is it. Might not be it. Nope, that's my video. Let me do recent. I just uploaded it. No. Refresh. Back in like Trudy. Aha. Here we go. Oh my God, is it? Oh, that is it. Okay.
Yeah, Bobby, I'm going to wake these kids up now, girl.
Okay, so again, this is a content created from Twitter, 17 Prime, I believe. So it's captioned how Black mamas / grandmas be when y'all leaving for a trip. Again, a lot of this is so funny and so culturally specific, but what it does is it really tells a larger story about like how these customs came to be. There's a reason why we don't stop a lot. And you might say it's convenience and time. Yeah, that's part of it. But a lot of it is because of the Green Book. It's because we couldn't stop all the time because it wasn't always safe for us to stop, right? So I'm not trying to be grim. I just thought this was very, very funny. And let me tell you something. Felt like I was watching my cousin because it's exactly how our road trips were.
Y'all up? Go ahead and get us and get on this road. You got to do what? Now, why you didn't go and get in that shower last night? You knew we was leaving early. I'm going to tell you like this. If you ain't in that car by the time I'm in that car, you getting left. Because I ain't waiting on nobody. Yeah, I'm back, Bobby. And make sure y'all cutting everything off. I don't know nothing that's wrong. Loading up. Don't get left. Now, how I beat y'all getting ready? Y'all been up. What you got all them bags for? You don't need 2 good bags. You don't need all that. Shoot. You're visiting Texas. You ain't moving there, girl. Put this ice in that cooler. I got y'all some sandwich meat. I ain't making all them stops for no food.
Here you go.
Some chips and some drinks back here. I'm heading out.
Them Kool-Aid jammers.
Yeah. I'm filling up now. Do anybody gotta go and use the bathroom?
I just think that's hilarious. Because it's so like reminiscent of my childhood. But again, a lot of those customs and like how Black people travel and those norms, they need to be reflected. So what I am is hopeful that under Victoria's leadership and under the participation of people like Marilyn Hemingway and others, Janie Harriet, I'm hoping that the cultural nuances are taken into account when trying to collect data or to illustrate potential for black growth and Black tourism. I think before we even talk about Black growth of tourism, I think we need to talk about, again, first daylighting a lot of this Black history and culture around travel in Charleston that we don't make space for it. Not enough space. All right, so I'm gonna go back and get to my history tab. There was, let me see, I'll suggest that y'all go take a look at some of these. About a year ago or more, the Washington Post did a whole series on the Green Book. There've been books. With the Schomburg. So this is the exhibition. If you go to the Schomburg's website, again, the Schomburg is a part of the New York Public Library system, right? And so you can go to nypl.org and then get to the Schomburg page and tab, and you can look up this exhibition and you can learn more. And what I really like about it is that you have like a syllabus here. So this is the recommended reading. So don't watch that movie. Right, so watch. Pick up this book, Soul on Bikes. Right, Motorcycle Clubs, Overground Railroad, Driving While Black is the big popular book right now. The Diary of Malcolm X. Right, and how when his trips abroad and how when he left the Nation of Islam and how that expanded his outlook on the work that he did here. Once he got more in touch with the Black diaspora. Crusader, Living the California Dream, Black Pilgrimage. You'll get all those books here. And also you can listen to a lot of the, the QR codes you can scan. That's what I did. You can listen to some of the guide here. So I invite you to go enjoy that. I'm going to close out this tab and then head back over to YouTube. And so the Washington Post did a couple of video series here too. I want to, there was something I wanted to play real quick. I wanted to talk about. Oh, I know what I want to do. Here, we're gonna watch. We're gonna get into preservation real quick. We're gonna talk about the historic preservation. This video right here is important to lift up because of what's not being said or what hasn't been done from the historic preservation and historic Charleston and the Preservation Society of Charleston, whomever. Right. But let me play. Let me play the local. WLTX did something a while ago about the Green Book. So Orangeburg family operated city's only Green Book location, and they talk about the family. So this is our connection, at least in Orangeburg, our connection to the Green Book, at least a clip, the one of the most readily available clips that I found. Oh, black people are so beautiful.
In almost every home, the Green Book was a
Go
standard.
ahead, Cecil.
Maybe not quite as popular as the Bible, but still yet very useful during those days.
Well, during the time of segregation, many businesses across the country wouldn't accommodate people of color, even though they had money. Black Americans weren't allowed to do business in certain places because of the color of their skin. For that reason, the Green Book was created. It listed businesses like hotels, restaurants, barbershops, and much more in different states that would welcome people of color. Cities around South Carolina are listed in the Green Book, and tonight, for the first time, Alicia Nieves tells us about the Orangeburg connection.
I remember one occasion when my own family benefited very greatly from the Green Book.
At the age of 25, Cecil Williams took a road trip with his family, traveling from his hometown.
Y'all, we got a whole living legend just sitting in Orangeburg that doesn't get no recognition. Doesn't get nearly enough recognition. This man has literally built his own museum to South Carolina Black history and culture. Shout out Cecil Williams.
Of Orangeburg to visit relatives in New York City. The year was 1962.
The farther north we got, of course, the less rigid segregation.
Shout out Millicent Brown in the back. Shout out. Shout out.
Patterns, and things will open up.
As they drove on Highway 301 near Fayetteville, North Carolina, their car broke down.
Ooh.
The repair would keep them there for the night, so they pulled out the Green Book.
Ooh.
It wasn't every place that people of color could really shop at or where you were welcome. There were so many places that were discriminated against.
They blurred
you
it out.
could not go. Signs of racism, white only. Had it not been for the Green Book, we would not have been able to find a place to stay overnight.
As a professional photographer, Williams took a snapshot of that moment. The photograph is on display at the Cecil Williams South Carolina Civil Rights Museum in Orangeburg.
And I have a picture of the hood of the car, and my mother and my sister are standing by, and we are waiting for the wrecker to come and, of course, haul our car away.
The Green Book played a pivotal role in keeping the Williams family safe that day. These pages listed hundreds of businesses from coast to coast where African Americans were welcomed.
He gave the land and everything.
Louise Johnson's family owned the single Orangeburg listing in the Green Book. The home at 1220 Lancaster Street belonged to her uncle, Jerry Johnson, and his wife, Pearl.
Go ahead,
my
Pearl.
father's brother.
Jerry Johnson lived at 1220 Lancaster. His home also had rooms for rent at a good price. Mr. Johnson's doors were always open, and his wife would always have something.
So I want to pause right there because, again, how black folks had to travel informs how black people travel now. So how black folks had to travel was they had to sometimes rely upon maybe rooming houses or just black folks who had extra room. And so that's how my cousins come. That's how my brother, a couple years ago, he brought his in-laws from Chicago and the kids and his family. And they, we stayed at the house. Well, part of it, we stayed at the house, but that's typically how folks travel. And it informs that. You're saying again, Mika, what this got to do with this? I'm just saying that if you're gonna discuss travel, if you're going to discuss vacation, if you're going to discuss tourism dollars and impact, it needs to make sure it needs to take into account this history and how a lot of these customs are still being observed by folks now. Look, so just seeing this address and this home, it's a tourist home, a home away from home. That's how they bill it. That's a lot like how the black folks entertain others or how they take to the road. Even me, when I went to Brooklyn, I didn't stay with black people, but staying with people, staying with friends is always for me preferred if I'm not gonna wear out my welcome or be, too much of a distraction or disruption. I could be loud, y'all.
To serve.
He had an apartment, house, and he had a business, restaurant. His wife was a cook. She loved to cook and sing, and she's a sweetheart.
Johnson remembers her uncle as one of the first black motel and restaurant owners in Orangeburg County. His obituary states he was a successful contractor in South Carolina.
He was just a person that he loved to give and help people.
In 1975, Jerry Johnson donated the property to his place of worship, where he also served as a deacon, Greater Faith Baptist Church. It stands on the property today, along with a child development center on the very spot where Johnson lived.
The polling on Uncle Jerry's on his life was very sure, and it helped a lot of people.
Seated with Mrs. Johnson are two of her daughters, Glenda and Delphine. The family says their goal is to preserve their uncle's legacy, perhaps with a historical marker.
There are many that come and go. Greater Faith has a soup kitchen, and there are many folks who are not members of our church and members of the community, but for them to know, the hallowed grounds that they walk on.
Family.
And I think too, not to cut off this amazing retelling, I'm gonna back it up a little bit because I'm gonna make sure I get to everything. The part that faith plays into this whole equation as well, I think is oftentimes overlooked, and I don't know how it's overlooked, but it's overlooked. But Black folks' connection to faith, to their faith, is something that you can't overlook as well, and it factors in. This conversation here is being led by folks in North Carolina. The first couple minutes are just amazing. Actually, I might skip around, but let me play this. This is from North Carolina.
Holt Noel, and I'm excited to be here at the North Carolina Museum of History in Raleigh, where the museum has partnered with the North Carolina African American Heritage Commission to present a film by the Smithsonian Channel called The Green Book Guide to Freedom. It's a fascinating story about a Harlem postal worker named Victor Green who developed a guidebook for African American travelers, and it all.
So again, this is titled Navigating Jim Crow, the Negro Motorist, Green Book, and the Power of Black Mobility. Listen to some of the contemporary voices that they had participate in this panel discussion.
Also provides insight into how African Americans moved and the power of Black mobility. We're going to talk about it today with a very exciting panel of experts in travel and heritage tourism. I'd like to introduce them right now. Please welcome Aya Shabu. She's a professional dancer, choreographer, and teaching artist in Durham, and founder of Whistle Stop Tours. We also have Andre Neighbors, Partner Relations Manager for Visit North Carolina, a part of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. And we also have Angela Thorpe, Director of the North Carolina African American Heritage Commission.
That's not her. That's...
Welcome to all three of you.
I don't know what happened.
We've seen this incredible documentary about the Green Book and about Black mobility, and it's so important, the film says, to preserve spaces that were once reserved for African Americans. And
this is also part of my argument, is more conversation around preservation. This is what makes me hopeful, being that Victoria is currently leading the corridor, because I know how much preservation. I know she's been a champion of preservation, right? And she knows, by virtue of her job and by virtue of her accomplishments, she knows the importance of preserving these spaces. And that's something that we need to fight for. And there's a conversation to be had about the historic preservation societies, or however they call themselves, and how they've historically used or weaponized historic preservation to preserve white spaces, and also to take Black land and give it to and give it to to white owners, right? So how white preservation has pretty much led to the destruction or the lack of preservation of a very significant Black mainstays that should have been, like Septima Clark's house. I've talked about this often. It's a sorority house now. There's no way Septima Clark's birthplace should be what the Majeska house is. And even the Majeska Simpkins house in Columbia, it was under the threat of demolition, right? But look at the borough homes over there near the aquarium. Those aren't preserved the way they need to be preserved. So there's a very vicious and violent attack on Black history, on Black historical memory, that needs to be discussed at length when discussing Gullah Geechee tourism, because we don't even have rights. Now I'm gonna take ownership, right? The city is my birthright. My last name Gadsden. My daddy Gullah Geechee, born and raised on Wamala Island. this city is my birthright, so I'm going to take up space and reclaim a lot of these spaces, either informally or formally. But I think it's important for these institutions to help facilitate that reclamation process as well, reclamation of public memory, if that makes any sense.
For historical purposes, but I want to start with you, Aya, and share with us some of the work that you're doing to do exactly that with your Whistle Stop tours. What are they?
Yes. So I've been fortunate to work with the Pauli Murray Center for History and Social Justice, which is located in Durham. This is the home of Pauli Murray, who is a famed lawyer, writer, first African-American ordained Episcopal priest,
trans person,
activist, so many things. And her house was named as a National Historic Landmark in 2016. So I get to partner with the Pauli Murray Center to enliven not only the house in which Pauli Murray grew up, but also the neighborhood that is still standing.
Tell me what we do here.
Stories of African Americans who remember when the West End was a segregated neighborhood, and they're still working to preserve their stories as more people are moving to North Carolina, specifically to Durham, into once was historically black neighborhoods, and are now being integrated and in some cases gentrified.
Well, as many people know, many people may not realize that tourism is a great economic driver in North Carolina. So Angela, talk a little bit about your work in terms of the importance of lifting up spaces that have a historical connection and how that work impacts travelers who are African American and otherwise.
Absolutely. So we find in no matter what heritage we're thinking about, place is important. Stories are important, our objects and our memories are important. And so you see in historic homes all across the state, and historic sites, and even in museums, these are places where people can go to, again, connect to heritage, to connect to memory, and to connect to history. In North Carolina, we have a number of African American heritage sites that, again, drive people to them. You can think of the International Civil Rights Center and Museum. You can think of the Harvey B. Gantt Center for African American Arts and Culture.
Who's Harvey B. Gantt? Who's Harvey B. Gantt? Quiz. Anybody watching? Who's Harvey B. Gantt?
In Charlotte, North Carolina, or even Staggville State Historic Site, which was once a large plantation in Durham, North Carolina. Again, all of these places do a wonderful job of capturing memory and driving people to visit them. And again, this is an economic engine for many of these communities, because when people are going to visit these sites, they're spending their dollars in the gift shop, at nearby restaurants, and even in hotels. And so
remember, she used the present tense. She said this is an economic driver. These are economic drivers, acknowledging that the power is already there. The economic power is already there, right? Right? Good job. What else? What's Harvey's connection to? Let me see. Go ahead, KCJ18. Yup. What else? Where he from, y'all? Where he from? Y'all doing great. Oh, word? Your dad's homeboy? Say something. What? What else? Y'all are doing great. Y'all got A's on the test. I don't test y'all, but there you go. Look at boop, 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 boop. Go ahead, Jessica. All right. Cool. Right? So I wanted to pop out real quick because, again, that's a really good video, y'all. If you so that was called Navigating Jim Crow, the Negro Motorist Green Book. North Carolina Department of Natural. Y'all can come back to this video and look at this title right here. Screen grab it, whatever. Go back and watch it. It's really good. It's like 39 minutes. Yup, 39 minutes. It's really good, and it talks about that economic. Matter of fact, let me see if I can get to it real quick because I want to hop over to something else. I think it's when the gentleman started speaking. I want to see if there's a part that I can get. I think it was about halfway through. Hold on one second.
needed to really build it up.
Right. I think the Nina Simone birthplace is a really good example.
Shout out Nina Simone.
Exactly what Andre is talking about. And part of what I wanted to add is that in addition to there being a resource gap, I think there's an education gap, right?
Yeah, I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
Historic preservation organizations in the nation for help. They said, hey, can you help us preserve?
There's a resource gap. So a lot of the things that need preservation, we have to figure out a way to resource ourselves and to resource those efforts. And that's really where the Preservation Society, where the CVB, or all these very moneyed and connected and credible white-led organizations could really start pushing. Like, I love that. I'm being kind of sarcastic. I love how like these statements are issued by these preservation organizations, but I'm not seeing any really vigorous or enthusiastic pushes toward actually rectifying the issue of lack of representation, lack of equity, lack of a black staff, a black indigenous, like you ain't got no brown people on your staff outside of admins here and there. Like, we're not seeing that enthusiasm to really course correct here in Charleston. But there's a resource gap for sure.
This space. And that's exactly what the trust has come in to do. They designated that space with
think is coming up here.
To even do basic preservation, and so they are leading a really wonderful model in our state around doing active education, and I'm hoping that education helps to inspire, empower, and mobilize other communities across the state and people across the state to do the same thing.
And I think that there's a lot of really exciting places like that right in Durham.
Yes. So I'm part of the education. All
right, hold on one second. I want to see if I can get his comments. I believe he offered up something next.
Travelers are looking for. When it comes to the travel industry, African Americans are great consumers.
Here we go.
And
here we go.
I wanted to know what your thoughts, what you've observed about how African Americans as consumers of travel has impacted the industry.
And look, this is a broad and nuanced conversation about preservation, right? And we're talking about the black dollar and the power within the black dollar, the power within the black Gullah Geechee dollar. It's important. I also want to lift up that we shouldn't be reduced to just what we can contribute, because that's largely how. So after the fall of slavery, Reconstruction, yada, fast forward Jim Crow, and then like the fall of Jim Crow, what that really was, and you saw that actually throughout Reconstruction as well. What you really saw was that black businesses saw an opportunity to earn more money. Again, black people were occupying jobs, they were buying cars, they were buying homes, whatever. There was more black upward mobility. And so white businesses weren't being more like, hey, we love you now because we realized we were wrong. And you're, no. Dollars. They saw us as dollars. So, and I'm not saying that anyone on this panel is doing that. I just want to just offer that to this conversation, that let's make sure that we don't just reduce the black consumer to just a dollar amount, because they bring way more. Is much. The conversation is way more advanced than that. And again, I hope that Charleston and this region starts to facilitate conversations like this. But listen to this whole black consumer tidbit. Again, current. Not, potentially current, what we already bring to the table, an acknowledgement of what we already bring to the table, a way to legitimate what we already contribute to tourism and culture throughout the country, okay? Especially here in North Carolina and South Carolina. And side note, Harvey Gantt, Charleston native, you wouldn't know that because we don't lift up his legacy. Shout out to NPR, who wrote a story years ago about how one NPR reporter had an internship at the Post and Courier or News and Courier, whatever it was. He was trying to find stories on Harvey Gantt, looked him up under his name, couldn't find him, went to a section called Negro Agitation and found a slew of stories on Harvey Gantt. That shows you how this city and how this region, how this state, how little regard they held for black people who accomplished great things. Y'all listed up all of Harvey Gantt's bona fides. but you won't see that reflected here. You won't see that observed here. That's what, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's an issue that we have to rectify. Why don't we know more about Harvey Gantt? Why don't we know more about his story? Why is it just Porgy and Bess or nothing? Right? Like, why don't we talk enough about E.E. Just from Maryville or Mary Just? Like, why don't we talk about that? People who came here and studied Black spirituals and black contributions to arts and culture, who learned here and took it across the world and popularized Black spirituals and gospel across the world. We don't talk about that here. Why? And that's what we also need to address as well. It's already here. How do we unearth it, right? How do we daylight it and give people exposure to the history, to the historical memory that's already here, especially Harvey Gantt? Andre?
Well, we're about a $63 billion economic impact to the travel industry.
Impact, not potential.
Actually, African Americans are actually one of the largest spenders when it comes to trips. They spend about $2,000 on an average trip.
Ask me how I know that's true.
So we're traveling and we're spending.
We're out there.
And we're definitely out there and doing months of different things.
I just went through this experience.
Traveling, going to spas.
Yes.
Events.
Concerts,
historic sites,
and a hurricane.
Shopping is another. Shopping and dining are probably the two largest contributors or influencers for African Americans to travel, and for all travelers for that matter. So
he talked about the impact, present tense, the impact that black consumers have on travel and tourism. It's time for the industry to catch up to us. Jim Crow didn't stop us. Jane Crow didn't stop us. Bullshit, discrimination, not letting us into certain brunch spots ain't stopping us. We're still out here traveling and trying to recreate and enjoy these spaces, right? It hasn't stopped us. I want to transition back to something I've shared not countless, maybe a couple times on IG in my stories, which is this piece by my friend Brian Walter, another Jersey native. Brian sent me an email last year, and this is just an excerpt from the email. We were having this conversation about, excuse me, I'm trying not to belch on the mic. We had this conversation about Charleston's practices around preservation, and I will continue to lift up because he researched this. He's very familiar with this. It's very important. So Brian wrote this, and I captured it. The Charleston preservation regime, I love that he calls it that. I call it that now because of him. The Charleston preservation regime. This is a white boy, y'all. This is a white boy with the shits. I love it. You love to see it. The Charleston preservation regime does even more than just protect the history of the Confederacy and bury/whitewash the history of slavery. And in parentheses, though we know that it sure does that, right? By working to preserve and monetize white history and heritage, the industry also works to perpetuate the same narrative. Let me blow it up. The same narrative that it glorifies. For instance, the Preservation Society and Historic Charleston Foundation do not just preserve homes, but it functions as a tool for Black displacement and gentrification. In parentheses, Preservation Society developed the nation's first historic district, which acted as early redlining. Let me read that again. The Preservation Society developed the nation's first historic district. So the first historic district ever in the United States was started here in Charleston, and it served to be like the first iteration or early iteration of redlining, y'all. Okay. You be like, oh, Mika, that sounds like you really like, that's just your friend talking. That's just your friend. You got to show me the Carfax. I'll show you the Carfax. Wikipedia. Ain't that the deep research? Nah, but Wikipedia be on point. All right. So here you go. Historic districts in the United States. All right, historic districts in the United States are designated historic districts recognizing a group of buildings, properties, or sites by one of the several entities on different levels, yada, yada, yada. Let's get down to it. All right? Let's get down right here. The history right here. The first United States Historic District was established in Charleston, South Carolina in 1931, predating the United States federal government designation by more than 3 decades. So it wasn't until the 60s, tuck that away. It wasn't until the 60s, when folks started having, like, you started to see more historic districts. But you'll see, and I talked about this with Katie, my girl Katie, when we did the whole New Orleans travel. New Orleans and Charleston go back and forth with competing with slavery, with historic districts, displacement. I mean, New Orleans and Charleston stay competing to be like the best in the worst categories, right? So Charleston was leading the whole, we the first to succeed, and we the first to create this somewhat like, let me go back, this form of redlining. Let me get back to Brian's graphic to continue the reading. So we were the first to marginalize people. All right. Preservation Society developed the nation's first historic districts, which acted as early redlining. And Historic Charleston Foundation's model was to literally purchase Black property, pass it to white buyers who would restore it. Historic districts protect white landowners and give them control over what happens in certain areas of town. Similarly, the conservation of wilderness and plantation spaces, hello to that reserve up the street, up on 17, a bunch of other places, y'all. Wherever y'all see an old rice plantation that's now some sort of wilderness preservation. Oh, we talked about this, but Brian sums it up way better than I ever could. So similarly, the conservation of wilderness and plantation spaces function as a tool to preserve white plantation land ownership tax-free and restrict access to land that in the past Black folks either utilize or own. In short, preservation is not just about preserving the memory of white supremacy, it's about actively and materially continuing white supremacy itself. Shout out to Brian Walter, my homie, my friend, Jersey native. Really appreciate that, right? Yeah, it's a lot. And so again, Mika, tied into the new Gullah Alliance. If you're gonna talk about and again, there's more to come. This is just a whatever, right? This is just the initial meeting. This is the first of its kind. All of that. Victoria just got in her role. Mika, can she have a cup of coffee? Can she settle into her role? Can she acclimate? Absolutely, she can acclimate. I am asking folks to, again, there's a bunch of spaces between effusive praise and hating, being a player hater, right? There's a bunch of space between there. And what I'm saying is that as these conversations evolve, as Victoria gets more comfortable in role, it's okay like to ask questions about, hey, does the research firm work with any of these Black travel groups, right? So I'm gonna go back to the Black travel tabs, right? Will this alliance look to the leadership of the Black Travel Alliance, right? And they just recently launched a history of Black travel. Look at that. Everybody's talking about this because Black people be traveling, y'all. We want to see it. We want to know about the motorcycle clubs. We want to know about what's my this is my little quick Google search. I did this when I worked for Cypress when I did the Giving Project. I created, if I can find it. So y'all know I created like a curriculum around how to teach folks on the ground, how to teach them how to resource movement work outside of like being beholden to funders. Like how do we can all galvanize resources among our own communities and we can resource people. So part of the curriculum that I had to create, hold on one second. Part of the curriculum that I created, I'm gonna pop it up real quick. I would try to be very intentional. I would try to be very intentional about showing Black folks in different ways, but also showing Black folks enjoying recreation. So when I asked the cohort this specific prompt on a day that we convene, what Memorial Day week or memories did you make? And here I have to the right of the prompt, you have pictures here. I believe this is Atlantic Beach. Protests for Black people trying to historically protest to get access to beaches. Got the Inkwell. You got, this is Savannah. This is the beach that will only let black people black people fought to be on in Savannah, Georgia. Chicken Bone Beach. I think this is Chicken Bone Beach right here, right? Black people just outside, right? We outside. That's what the kids are saying, right? That's what they were saying in New York constantly. So when I Google black beaches, segregation, just those 3 words, these are the images that popped up, and you'll learn more about, you can see, yep, New Jersey, like this is New Jersey Beach. I think that's Atlantic Beach. No, not Atlantic Beach. Chicken Bone Beach, I think. The Inkwell, a bunch of places, y'all. Don't get me lying on which beach is which, right? And we already know, like, black bodies were prohibited from Folly to this day. My daddy's 81 years old, never been to Folly Beach because segregation. But he can tell you about Mosquito Beach, right? Right. So when we talk about serious learning today, I know, right? Good morning. Hey, Evelyn. Good morning. When we talk about the new Gullah Geechee Alliance, I think what's important is to, first of all, we need, why is this phone ringing? We need outreach to be a little bit more robust. I will say that that's one of my criticisms. Like, look, I don't always expect, I know I called the study that I wasn't coming at Victoria, I was coming at Mandela and that work that was initiated before Victoria got there. We don't need a mayonnaise covered study to tell us about black tourism. What we need is for you to do more and to reach out to the Black Travel Alliance, right? So Black Travel Alliance, they just, again, we just going over this again, launches history of black travel. The Schomburg has the exhibition on black travel, traveling while black, all that other stuff. The Black Travel Alliance Research Committee. So there's already a study that's been worked on. I don't have access to the study, but there's a study that's already been, I don't know what you call it, a study that's been conducted. All right. So MMGY, they are not white, they are not black led, but what they did was they partnered with other black cultural groups, right? They partnered with the Black Traveler. They partnered with the National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals. They partner with the Black Travel Alliance. I'm getting a lot of email notifications. Let me see what's going on. Hold on one second, y'all. Getting kind of scared because I'm like, ain't that many. Oh my God. Yeah, so they partner with these groups right here. BTA, this one right here, NABHOOD, NC, yeah, right. We already read all those, right? And that's important. So if you don't have a black staff, if you don't have a department set up to really look at the nuances of black travel, right? What's this? Nicole, you just dropped something in the chat. Hold on one second. Let me pop it up. Right? Black Beach. Okay, an exhibition by Dustin Harewood. Let me see. Okay, it's from 2020, right? The Black Beach. This is awesome. All right, join the Cathedral Arts. What state is this? This is in Jacksonville, Florida. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. That's another example, right? I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna go back to that. Let me add that to my tab, my bookmarks. Thank you, Nicole. I'm gonna hop into, let me see, another. Oh, okay. I want to hop into this. So as we watch the WLTX piece about the Orangeburg Green Book Stop, we know that we have here what we do have, and the article does, Emily does touch on it very briefly. We do have a digitized version of like the South Carolina Green Book. This website, y'all, is, to me, is so important. It's so important. It tabs upon tabs of black spaces. So this is a list that's curated throughout the state. You can, let me go back to, there's a map right here, the map, duh. So here's the map. So you can look at all these tabs, right, throughout the state of South Carolina. Let's come down here to Charleston, right? Slave auctions, yikes. The Simmon Pinckney homestead, right? Camp of Wilds, African Brigade. If you go to Berkeley County too, there's a rich history of Black recreation, those fish camps and whatnot, right? The Cooper River Black Cypress Gardens, right? Bowman Vineyard is a Black-owned vineyard, y'all. Come on, right? Cherry Hill Classroom, Holly Rosenwald School. Let's click on this. Holly Hill Rosenwald School. Talked about this. Hey, Evelyn, if you're still watching, we talked about the Rosenwald schools in the Giving Project, right? We talked about how, these schools popped up everywhere in the South, especially North Carolina and South Carolina, right? So this is the Holly Rosenwald School. So this is all readily available. Again, making my point that we already know. We know we dope. We know we spend money. We know we got places to see, people to see, places to go, right? We know we got that. How do we integrate social justice and equity in this conversation around Black tourism? How do we gain entree? I believe the CVB was present on that call that was facilitated by Mandela and the Gullah Geechee Corridor. I believe they were. Shout out to y'all for engaging with this tweet. It's not like I got a big response, but for me, 51 is significant engagement. But I thought there was some good comments made as well. Let me just read this. I don't know. I'm just reading this for the first time. Tourism development and how it benefits / excludes certain parts of a community in Latin America is my area of expertise. Shout out to Katie Dudley. She and I think we talked about it really briefly about sustainable tourism, and we talked about Latin America as well, right? So at least it's kind of say it's going to go exactly the way you think it is. And then here, Rachel, is it Rachel? Rachel, okay. It says, I promise you they're going to gloss over slavery on these plantations. Theme trails, because this is what they say in the article, theme trails, have them experience local cuisine. White folks will always want shrimp and grits and sweet tea, right? And have underpaid Black folks grinning their face. You ain't lying. And I think, so while these experiences might feel like a lot of it might feel like, oh, this is said really in an incendiary way, it's important to lift up these lived experiences of people who have to contend with the tourism culture here. The tourism culture here is oppressive, right? We know this. The tourism culture here is oppressive. We know that here in Charleston, they're selling slavery. They're selling subjugation. They're selling Black pain and trauma, putting a smiling face on it, repackaging labor camps, right? Forced labor camps, repackaging them as wedding venues. That is a concerted effort to whitewash and to divorce the public's relationship to. It's to create the perception that these places weren't places where atrocities took place, right? Computer about to fall all the way off the elevated platform. So y'all know, and I'm not lifting this up because I'm in it, but y'all know about this story of the New York Times. Charleston tourism is built on Southern charm. Locals say it's time to change, right? So this came out as I was going through the Southern charm bullshit, right? And I just want to scroll, but there's a part in the beginning of this, which tells you how the CVB here, who was again on the call that was facilitated by the Gullah Geechee Corridor and this Mandela research firm, right? So CVB was on the call, and what I've seen with the CVB, let me just go to it real quick, because when that museum opened up, y'all, when that museum opened up, they're gonna be like, here, Black people. Damn, here you go. Aren't you happy? They're gonna be like, shut up. We got this museum. So yeah, Charleston CVB, right? So when you go to the page right here, right? Hotels, lodging, things to do, nightlife. They took, I think they used to, well, no, they got it up here. Right up here, weddings. So you click on weddings. Oh, maybe they'll take you to an indoor venue. Oh, let me see. Find a venue. Oh, historic homes on the water, plantations and parks. I think they did a little reshuffling of how they present the information, but it's still plantation weddings, right? It's still plantation weddings. It's still selling you this antebellum fantasy, right? You would think that they would really have beach weddings as their jam. You would really think, like when you go to the Caribbean or Sandals or something, you would think that beach weddings would be their jam. Right, I'm gonna close out this wedding tab because yikes. But here too, let me see right here, discover Charleston's African American heritage. They just started this website used to be a standalone website. I don't know why I just gouged my own eye. This used to be a standalone website, and some of the feedback we gave while we were in the history and culture subcommittee, as part of the larger commission, we talked about how this needed to be housed within Explore Charleston. If you're going to have it, make it, stop with the separate but equal bullshit. I don't know if them putting on the website was part of the original plan or if they heeded our feedback, right? Well, all of this is just selling. Look, do you see anything marketed toward the black traveler, right? You already have money here. They have access to money. They've got these relationships with Condé Nast. They've got these relationships with the airport. They've got all of that. Why couldn't we do a year of return to coincide with the opening of the museum? Why couldn't we do a year of return? A lot of black people in this country have a connection to Charleston, have a connection to South Carolina because their ancestors who were enslaved, the formerly enslaved ancestors, or their enslaved ancestors, came through Charleston, likely to come through Charleston. Why not do a year of return? Remember a couple years ago, the year of return to Africa, right? Why couldn't we do that in Charleston? Why couldn't that be showcased prominently? Why couldn't we do more to sell Charleston to black folk? And you know why they don't do it. A, they don't care, and B, they'd have to reverse course on a lot of the whitewashing, right? So let me go back to the New York Times article real quick. So this is after the George Floyd protest. The week that George Floyd was killed by Minneapolis police officers, the Charleston, South Carolina Convention, the CVB, introduced a campaign to assure tourists that despite the coronavirus pandemic, Charleston, a city that has topped must-go travel lists for years, was ready to welcome them back. Remember how we led the world in infection rates here? CVB has no conscience. All right. The program asked hotels and restaurants to take a white glove pledge. Yasm, Miss Julie. Miss Julie. I'm coming with your grits. Take a white glove pledge, which would assure guests a high level of commitment to hygiene. The campaign's logo was a white gloved hand holding a tray. The unwitting reference to the servitude of plantation life came at a moment when Black Lives Matter protests were beginning to fill the streets in cities across the nation. Shout out to the screen grab, because I think they took that shit down. All right. The white glove pledge could not have been any less well conceived, said Steve Palmer, the managing partner of the Charleston-based Indigo Road Hospitality Group, which employs about 1,000 people in 20 restaurants and bars in southern states and Washington, D.C. Days later, the Black Lives Matter protests reached Charleston and turned violent. I don't know about that, Terero. Nearly 125 buildings in the core of the city were damaged. The next morning, the brilliant Helen Hill, the chief executive of Charleston Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, who has been marketing the city for more than 30 years, sent an email to the Bureau's members praising the people, especially the one that pulled a gun on protesters, praising people who emerged the next morning to clean up. They are sweeping and not weeping, she wrote, exclamation point, without acknowledging the pain. Shout out to all y'all who sent me the memo she sent out that morning, right? Shout out to all y'all who sent me that email. It was like a bunch of y'all. Without acknowledging the pain that had spurred the protest. Please remind your staff who handle social media to post only uplifting and positive. Look at that. Bossing say, nothing to see here. Please remind your staff who handle social media to post only uplifting and positive content. Remember, our audience is bigger than local, and that's the fucking problem. That's your fucking problem, Helen. This is why I don't get invited, because I'm saying the F word. But that's fine. I really don't want an invitation. If y'all see me at a table with Helen Hill, take my G card. Yo, take my street cred. If you see me at a table, I don't negotiate with terrorists at all. And I don't mean that lightly. All right. To many who make their living from the 7.4 million people who visit the Charleston region every year, Ms. Hill's response seemed tone deaf at best, and at worst laid bare what has for years been simmering just below the surface of a city's genteel antebellum image, right? The delicate balance between the narrative promoted by the powerful Visitors Bureau and the city's history as the capital of the North American slave trade. That balance could no longer hold. right? I'm gonna stop it there. Y'all get the gist. If you want to go check out My Lovely Legs at the Steps of the Avery, you can check out My Lovely Legs at the Steps of the Avery. More importantly, what you can do is go down, check out your girl Olivia. I think she's working for the National Park Service down in Beaufort, the Reconstruction National Monument. I keep getting the name wrong, but she used to be at McLeod. Olivia now is down in Beaufort doing the damn thing. Shout out Olivia Williams. Follow her Twitter, Instagram, wherever. Support the girl. She's awesome. It's important to lift up her work as well, right? Plantation tours is a trip. I'll close that out. There was some tabs, y'all. Hold up. I know I'm talking long today, but I missed y'all. Look at all these tabs I got. These are all like talking about Black tourism. Let me see what I want to hit on real quick. Oh yeah, these are some of the websites that exist. We already talked about that. Oh, I said this earlier. Go to C-SPAN, right? And so if you want to see that extended conversation, C-SPAN got the nerve to have ads on their videos. Yep, this is it. It's an hour and 17 minutes. I watched this in preparation for today's live stream. There's an ad, hold on. I want to go to the middle participant. I'm about to read the comments. Y'all are saying a lot. Over here. I'm gonna read the comments in a second. All right. Okay, let's get that. Let me
The film Green Book won the
Don't worry about that film, y'all. Don't watch it. No. This one right here, I'm gonna let her again. She does not shrink away from making sure to integrate social justice with tourism, right? So this entire conversation, y'all, again, go to C-SPAN, right? Green Book and African American tourism, right? She brings the past into the contemporary. I want y'all to hear a little bit from her.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon.
Oh, before let me go back to y'all. Y'all are important. Let me see. Hold on. Let me go back to your comments. Then we're gonna play Denise Gilmore's the portion of her of the panel. Art show about Black beaches. I already thank you again, Nicole, for that. I'm going to go back and look into that because I really want to study that. Black bodies on the beach is very important. Yeah, thank you. I should put my GP slides on Patreon. Girl, let me tell you something. Evelyn, if you've got PDF versions of my slide deck, could you send them to me, Evelyn? Because I don't have that because they locked me out of my account when they walked me to the door like a criminal. I do have it on Canva, but the way I created the slides is I didn't download them as PDF. So if you do have them saved as PDF, let me know. If you don't, it's cool. I got them on Canva, but I just it doesn't have all the links and shit like that. I don't even know if you can access them anymore. I don't know. All right. Thank you so much for the praise though, girl. Justin, you said earlier. Oh, Justin, you says, yeah, that would be directly to implicate Charleston's cradle of slavery. Absolutely. Evelyn, agree with you. Jessica, you responded to the unwitting part. Let me see. Evelyn, you asked, doesn't Helen Hill and her family still own Magnolia Plantation? Well, keep preaching, Evelyn. All right. Talk about trafficking and bullshit. Hello. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what Helen Hill owns. I know she is immensely powerful. I don't know what her family owns. I wouldn't doubt that she has some sort of ownership stake in something preservation or conservation related. I'm too real. Justin, you said it's all a facade. D, you said that white people always say, oh, Charleston is so beautiful. Yep. They just have a great publicist. I'm going to start, you know how you refer to cigarette manufacturers as like big tobacco? What should we call Charleston? Big Charleston doesn't sound, it sounds like a male stripper's name. Can't be Big Charleston. What could we call Big Antebellum? the Antebellum Industrial Complex? Maybe that's it. The Antebellum Industrial Complex. Big traffickers. That sounds traumatic. There you go. Antebellum Industrial Complex. All right, let's listen to Miss Denise Gilmore. I thought this was riveting, y'all. Big Charleston.
Afternoon to share the history, the inspiration, and the aspiration of the A.G. Gaston Motel. And again, as said in the introduction, I have the honor to serve as Senior Director of the Office of Social Justice and Racial Equity in the Office of Mayor Randall Woodfin in the city of Birmingham. And I'd just like to extend greetings to
happy
to you on behalf of Mayor Woodfin. The Gaston Motel was indeed a Green Book
how
site.
she combines both.
It was one of the few places in the segregated South built by and for Black people.
Thank you for the cosign.
So I invite you to travel back in time with me just to discover the full significance
Stop.
of the A.G. Gaston Motel. So the work that
Look at this.
I am leading in Birmingham,
preserving a beacon of social justice and equality.
With stakeholders and with the National Park Service.
It's not just about the space.
It's to preserve the A.G. Gaston Motel, but recognizing that it is indeed a site of social justice and equality. The A.G. Gaston Motel serves to preserve and confront a period in United States history where racial terror was
oh my God. I don't know. Okay, it's stuttering a lot. But
accepted.
Okay.
And often imposed by the instrumentalities of the state.
Hey,
it helps us examine how the legacy of racial segregation permeates through society even today. As a site of conscience, the city of Birmingham recognizes and embraces the power of place. The A.G. Gaston Motel sits literally in the
I want to stop it there because it does stutter a lot, but and I had it on my phone this morning, so I was brushing my teeth and whatever, and it was just when she got to this part about social justice and equality, right? And what's her title right here? Birmingham, Alabama. This is as of 2019. She was the Birmingham, Alabama Office of Social Justice and Racial Equality, the senior director there, right? And for her not to divorce the history of segregation, Green Book travel, she doesn't divorce that from the social justice contributions because the Green Book is social justice, right? The Green Book is activism. The Green Book is organizing, right? How to keep Black folks safe as they navigate mobility, right? Whether forced or leisure travel. And I love that. Like, you can do both. You there's no choice between that. And that's why I'm excited to see what Victoria and this initiative. I'm excited. I'm actually excited because I do trust and I expect nothing but great things from Victoria's leadership. Again, go to C-SPAN and you can find this whole conversation. But because it's stopping and starting, I don't want to play it. Y'all know I get traumatized when things start and stop. I wanted to go back. And again, I want to make sure that we elevate these conversations around tourism, that we take into account how Black people travel historically and how some of those things, the vestiges of the way we travel are still things that we can feel. I didn't play this for y'all. So this is from 2015. Let me see. This right here, the travel guide. So we watched the WLTX story from, I think, last year because Cecil had the mask on, right? So that means it was during the coronavirus pandemic. And then this piece, I don't think we played this yet. Let me wind it. Oh, I think she did talk. Yeah, we did talk about this. Did we?
This summer, and we've got to make it educational. You're doing all the work for us to get out and do some touring. My friend Dawn Dawson House is with us today. She's the Director of Communications for the Department of Parks and Recreation and Tourism here in South Carolina. And I love the idea that you all have managed to combine the old and the new, because we're talking about historical sites, right, and we're doing it through a new medium of using the internet.
That's exactly right. It's called the Green Book of South Carolina, and it's an online mobile travel guide that functions like a mobile app. So it helps you find more than 300 African-American travel sites and attractions in South Carolina.
This sounds like the perfect thing for a mom who is
she's so cute. So basically we already covered that. We saw that. I want to just again underscore the importance. Let me get my tabs. Underscore the importance of using what we already have. Also here, before I leave, I wanted to I wanted to show you or point you in a direction you probably already know. So we know about the Green Book of South Carolina. That's online. We talked about Janie Harriet, who was mentioned in the piece, who participated in this call. please make sure you research and Google, do your Googles on Janie Harriet. Amazing Black woman, daughter. She's also affiliated with these tourism sites here. Let me get back to there's something. Sorry, y'all, I gotta find the tab. Here we go. All right. So this is another site y'all need to check in on here, the South Carolina Department of Archives and History. And so here you have the South Carolina African American Heritage Commission. So not only do you have the Gullah Geechee Corridor, not only do you have the Penn Center, right? Not only will you have the museum when it opens, not only do you have the Avery, right? You'll have the South Carolina African American Heritage. You have the Heritage Commission, which I want to say Miss Janie is a part of it. I want to say she was. But this is another resource here. So this is a state government website. You can go click on this and learn more about this work, right? To preserve Black history here throughout the state. Sign up for a newsletter, whatever. It's very important. Let me close out. I'm trying to make sure I cover everything I wanted to cover. Yeah. So hopefully, I came at Mandela. Yeah, I don't care about coming at Mandela. I definitely hope that my tweet wasn't received as criticism of Victoria and her work. She's new enroll. I got one eye wide open as it pertains to her predecessor, Heather Hodges, and her relationship with Mandela. We need bold leadership around these initiatives. If you want to talk about Black culture, if you want to talk about Black tourism, Black travel, it's less about legitimating, what we already know to be true. And it's more about creating access to ways that Black folk can either profit or benefit from this tourism. It's not potential. We already have proven people come here for Black culture. Those biscuits, that's a Black recipe. I don't care who's serving them to you. If it's hot little biscuit, that white woman. I already told you that story about how I was in her mama's house and how I think a Black woman made them biscuits. Anyway, whether it's Callie's hot little biscuits, whether it's Sean Brock's, whatever, Husk, these recipes, this culture, this food culture that people love to lavish praise upon. This is Black food culture. These recipes were created by Black people. White people wasn't cooking all the Southern food. Yes, there are white Southern chefs. Yes, there are non-Black. Yes, all of that. But when it comes to the specific cuisine that we peddle, that we sell among the antebellum industrial complex, when it comes to that, that's Black culture. And so it's less about potential as outlined in the Post and Courier, more about what we already know to be true. The Black dollar we spend a lot, we buy a lot. Black women are the fastest group of entrepreneurs in the country. Black women have a lot of upward mobility. My mama was a breadwinner my entire life growing up. I love you, Daddy. But my mama was a breadwinner. Black women always been making it shake, right? And what we like to do, take girl trips. Shout out Black Southern Belle. I can't believe I buried the lead there. Shout out Michelle Perry, Black Southern Belle. Her site. If you're tired of seeing, if you're exhausted by seeing just white women and bridesmaids enjoy Charleston, if you want to know more about HBCU culture, you want to know more about Black people recreating, enjoying cocktails, enjoying spaces, enjoying the South. Support and view and look and consume Black Southern Belle, like this website. Support this website. Follow on Instagram. Huge following on Instagram and on social media in general. Hugely popular site. I hope she doesn't get mad at me saying this. She even said that she wasn't even she didn't get information about the alliance, not the call, but the alliance and the overall objectives of the alliance. And there are certain Black marketing groups that didn't get access to that. So I hope that that's rectified. But if you want to see Black folk connect with the South and enjoy holidays and spaces, check out Black Southern Belle. It kind of cleanse the palate a little bit. That's important. I think I'm gonna leave it there. I did a lot today. No more Disney-fied history. Yeah, you're right. I'm tired of it. It reminds me of what Ralph Abernathy said. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it in my drive. Lord, I'm always looking up something at the last minute. I'm always looking up something, but I watched this recently with my folks. Hold up. Let's see. I wish you could see. Let me see. When you try to play stuff in your Google folder, I know I gotta download it. Oh boy, this is gonna be hell. Anyway, I think it was before Coretta. Anyway, I can't find it. But Ralph Abernathy in this documentary, you know, he talks about just being tired of being taken to the historic sites. Like, you know, of course this was the hospital workers strike, so they were here on business. But that sentiment about saying, you know, you always talk about Charleston's historic sites. Well, you know, we here for justice. We need justice. And I feel like there's like a cross section between his sentiments there and what we're talking about today. Like, we're kind of tired of the whitewash version of Charleston, right? Let me get back to the beginning. We're tired of the whitewash. A lot of people are tired of the white. They want the real. When I drove Uber, right, and I drove thousands of trips, like literally thousands of trips, y'all. I mean, I'm telling you, more often than not, people said, take us to, you know, the savvy. Oh God, my foot. The savvy travelers will often talk about, take us to the real Charleston. Well, where would you go? They fell asleep. Where would you go, right? And people want the real. They want honesty. Now, some will leave really sassy comments at the McLeod plantation because I didn't come here to be reminded that this country was built on genocide and rape and torture. I wanted to know about the big house and the mint juleps, right? You got that faction, but you got a lot of people who don't mind being told the truth, who don't mind knowing the whole story, if you will, right? And so it's important to lift it up. So again, I want to say this because people run with stuff. Please big fan of Victoria Smalls. This is not an indictment on her worker leadership. This is more of like a critical look at these new initiatives, what they might be missing, what they could add, what they should take into account. Remember, Black people travel differently primarily because we had to historically, and how we had to travel historically shapes the way we travel now. So a lot of the stuff that we talked about, or we laughed at with 17 Prime, a lot of that stuff is funny, but it's rooted in something deeper, right? Not being able to stop as much. It wasn't just for efficiency's sake. I also want to leave you with something that Sarah McKeeba shared while she was on a panel. She was part of a panel discussion around Afrofuturism at College of Charleston a couple years ago. Shout out Sarah McKeeba. And Sarah mentioned something about, I forgot what the question was. I honestly forgot the context of her answer, but I remember her lifting up the fact that she would routinely wear College of Charleston gear because if she got in an accident, it might give her a better chance in being treated equitably or fairly, right? And so and I remember, like, it resonated with me because I know that I've performed some sort of, hey, if I'm hurt or if I'm in distress, I'm one of the good ones type of, that's just me characterizing it. But when Sarah lifted up that she would sometimes wear College of Charleston gear, in the chance that perhaps it was an accident or something when she was in distress, that she'd be treated better, it made me think about Black mobility, about the things we do to navigate these spaces, what Black people had to contend with when we try to book our Airbnb, and before they had the whole instant book feature, how we would be routinely rejected for Airbnbs, how we would switch our profiles on Airbnb in the earlier days, switch it to just like a sunset or some sort of image as opposed to our own face, because Black people were denied access to these short-term rentals. rental spaces. I'm just thinking about all these things that we contend with, and you're saying, well, Mika, what does that got to do with you? It's things that we have to factor in. The Black experience needs to be validated, right? We know the worth, but the Black experience needs to be validated in a way that positions us to work towards equity. We also need to look at where Black people can fit in terms of these RFPs for these projects. So if you're refurbishing the Hutchinson House, right, in Edisto, this historic Black house, if you're refurbishing it, are there Black contractors? Do you know who else has access to those RFPs, right? That's something that's important. I think with the museum, with the African American Museum, that was one of the biggest. When I relocated here, that was the conversation. Was you're building this monument, this museum that's supposed to focus, supposed to highlight Charleston's relationship to the transatlantic slave trade, and yet you're not prioritizing any Black vendors. You're not creating a space where they could take advantage of this and have first dibs, if you will, at this opportunity to be a part of this museum. And that's the mindset here in Charleston. Until we fight and claw and scratch, people don't listen to us. And so it's important to understand how we've been largely erased from Charleston. Acknowledge that. Right? We already know that we bring the dollar. We already know that what we have has tremendous value. But how do you actually capture data points that capture the Black travel experience in the South or here in the Low Country? And that's something I'm looking forward to see whether or not they grow that. So that's important. I do want to sum up how I started. For those who are latecomers, I talked about me leaving Cyprus. I can talk about it now because I've chosen not to pursue legal action. And yes, your girl was fired up and ready to go on that. I just cracked my knuckles because I was ready to go on that. I'm happy, I'm safe, I'm healthy, I am loved, I'm grateful. Y'all are dope. Nicole, you are dope. Jessica, you're dope. Evelyn, you are dope. Justin, Heath, Wolfgang, so many people, Jared, so many people are so dope. You can support me. I'll be starting to sell some teas starting tomorrow. I don't know if I'm starting. I'll have the teas in hand today. I will show them to you tomorrow. There are ways for you to support me in this transition. I'm thinking about having a rent party. Shout out to Black people who used to have those rent parties back in the day in New York. Thinking about having a rent party so folks can maybe support only because y'all have asked. But I have a real big thing about asking people for money. But the support is appreciated, and I ain't gonna lie, it's needed. Being let go when you know you've given so much. Fuck all the salary shit for a second. When you know you gave a fuck and you cared deeply for people in your community, and to be let go, and then to have the lie out there running amok that it was mutual, it really added insult to injury. For those who have supported Cyprus when I was Cyprus affiliated, thank you. Your support did not go in vain, was not in vain. But I know one thing right now, outside of my trusted colleague, the one trusted colleague that I left, that I love and have great affection for, outside of her, I can't vouch for anything else, because honestly, it was way too problematic. And the current leadership, the current executive director of the Cyprus Fund is not to be trusted. Do not work with her. I don't care if your local faves is working with her. I've got intimate knowledge. If you want to talk off camera, we can do it. Got any questions? I'm gonna be careful because y'all like the screenshot, but no, I got the Carfax, I got the receipts. Not to be trusted. Don't trust anybody who say that they're going to Canada during the pandemic. Good and goddamn well Canada borders is closed. Don't trust nobody who say they're going to Canada. Little dumb lies like that. Little dumb lies, and then yet I'm bitter now. Look at me getting all wrapped up. Junior sizes. We're going to make you a junior size, Nicole. All right. I'm good. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I got mad gear. You're going to see a lot of, if you didn't follow my personal IG, you missed out on my trip. I was everywhere and nowhere all at once. And I'm really excited. On a serious note, transition off that bullshit. This is the last time I'm going to talk publicly about it. I might sneak in, you know me, I'll sneak in a little side jab, but I'm not talking about it no more publicly. 'cause I don't want to get no cease and desist from no millionaires. I am full of ideas. Shout out to my girl Amron and her roommates. I'm just full of ideas coming from Brooklyn. Really excited about the content I really want to create, and I really want to hunker down and be more disciplined with the content creation. And I'm in Facebook jail now, but we'll figure out how to get everybody, get the audience to expand, to grow this audience. And so that's what I'm really working on now. And so I'm excited about it. Yeah. Okay, what y'all say real quick before I say peace? Junior sizes. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, thank you for saying sorry. It's okay. It's okay. It was humbling too. Can I just say this too? Can I offer this up? When it happened, I think when anyone feels shorted or cheated, your immediate reaction is like you go into self-preservation mode and you go into fight mode, right? And so that's where I went initially. What I probably should have done was examine my part. And you're like, well, Mika, but I had a part. Because as I saw the red flags, I didn't move quickly enough to the door. And in my mind, I knew it was over. I knew it was a matter of time. I literally said it to myself in my walk-in closet the day before I got fired. So I almost manifested my own end. And I was humbled. And there was a part of me that did believe that I couldn't be fired. There was a part of me that did believe that I was somewhat invincible. And when I tell you, when the universe serves you up a lesson like this, it's not so much about vilifying anyone, right? Or assigning blame. The other part of it is acknowledging where your thought process throughout the whole situation and leaning into humility. I was humiliated, embarrassed, and some of that humility and humiliation was something I needed to experience. I'm not invincible. I'm not. And I should have probably learned that from the previous year, because I had another big separation before where I wasn't doing the same work I was doing. I'm replaceable. This world, capitalism. I'm a black woman. I'm a black woman of size. I'm a cash poor black woman. I am disposable to the larger society. You know, I know my mama think I made it, but you get what I'm saying? And I needed to walk through this experience, and it taught me, girl, anything can happen anytime. Nothing's promised. And, you know, you can lose your salary. You can lose your health care just like that. You can lose your plan for tomorrow just like that. You can lose all of that. And I needed to learn that lesson. I'm not invincible. And I appreciate y'all. Hey, Joy. Yeah, I'm in Facebook jail. I know it's not hard though, Joy. I hope you can go back and watch. I'm about to log off, but it's not hard. Join me on Twitch. It's better. It's easier. Live streaming sometimes. I think multiple live streaming is part of the reason why the thing gets interrupted sometimes too. So I will try to download and upload this to Facebook. God willing, uploading to Facebook is a chore. Thank you, Australia Fuega. Talk about lifting up retrospection. Thank you. D, you said the only person you can change is you. Absolutely. Personal inventory. And my dad, I'm telling you, I don't know who this man is, because damn sure wasn't. Hey, Honor Marks. My dad damn sure wasn't dispensing this type of advice at high school. I don't know where this father knows best came from, but Ben has been on point. Me and my daddy had this really good conversation about being humble and learning from this, and like not learning like I'm strong, and learning that you got your ass handed to you. Like my dad's been on point. Yeah, thank you. So that retrospection is real. Personal inventory is real. Nope, it doesn't absolve their choices. D, to your point, it just keeps you focused, right? And I tell y'all this all the time, that I'm imperfect, right? I'm imperfect. And the way I fight, the way I come at Harry Griffin, CVB, Helen Hill, white nonsense, is the same way I am at work. And I unless it's my own shop, I gotta be mindful of that. All right. Yeah. Yep. You're right. Without struggle, there's no progress, Kia. You're right. Yep. I appreciate that. But but what's really important is that I lean into that, do that self-reflection, but also to tell y'all stay away from Cypress. Honestly, I can't just be silent on that. That part, stay away from Cypress. And anybody, again, they've got relationships with some folks here in Charleston. That's their business. That's their business. I know what I saw. I know what I heard. I know what I went through. And some of y'all in this chat know what I saw, know what I went through, saw the screen grabs. I got witnesses. Don't mess with Cypress. Don't mess with Cypress. And shout out to the Giving Project Network. You will see me in Giving Project spaces, hopefully. Because they still gang. Isn't that crazy how you get fired from the job, doing the job, and the job that you were doing says, nah, we still fuck with you? I love it. All right. That's it. It's still humbling. Still humbling. Still trying to make $1 out of 15 cents over here. All right. Y'all take care. T-shirts tomorrow. Shout out to Island Graphics. Shout out to Jared. Shout out to everybody who's been supporting me, checking in on me, calling me, DMing me, even on vacation, even in the morning. Shout out. I love y'all so much. I appreciate y'all. All right. I'll see you tomorrow. I won't be on Facebook. Not live, at least. All right. Bye.